You're listening to Who's Hot, the UKOCR podcast where Wil Chung, along with elite racers Becky, Neal, Chris Shipley and the occasional special guest, discuss the UKOCR series and other important races in the OCR calendar to find out who's hot.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Who's Hot. This is the final Who's Hot of the 2024 calendar and the very special Who's Hot 2024 recap. As always, I have my two special elite guests. We've got Chris Shipley and Becky, Neal. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello, very excited for this episode.
Chris, how many podcast recordings do you do every week? I mean,
how many podcast recordings do I do? Too many, that's for sure. I'm on them all, aren't I?
You are. But at least now you've found that unmute button. That's the main thing.
Do you think people get sick of my voice, or do you think they like it? Do you think they hear my voice now all the time?
Maybe it was the listeners calling for the mute button to stay up there. Too much.
Never too
No,
much.
we're gonna have a break soon anyway over winter, so we need to get all the words out today.
We'll try.
We'll do our best. And of course, we've got two special guests that will help us recap the 2024 UK OCR series. First of all, we've got the female winner. We've got Federica Di Caria. Fedi, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
You are
Hello.
very welcome. Thank you for joining us. And we also have the male champion. We have Dan Titcombe. Dan, welcome.
Thank you very much.
That's good to have you.
Great to have you both. And we were just talking, and Becky was saying, make sure we make a note of this. Both of them, of course, are returning champions. So, Fedi, you've won 2 in a row. But Dan, you are now 3 times champion, undefeated. You had a perfect season as well. So, very quickly, how did the season go for you?
Very good, obviously. The bringing it down to like the last race of the series wasn't in the original plan, but it's one of those of you just kind of have to accept that certain races don't always go your way. And then certain races you may miss because of particular reasons. So it was good to get the final race of the season under my belt to complete the full house, as you say.
Perfect. So I'll very quickly go through the top 10 of the male standings. We had Dan Titcombe, of course, Nuclear Wild Forest, 4 races, 2,000 points. So perfect score there. Second place, Russell Walsh, 4 races, 1,895 points. Morgan Maxwell in third, 1,687 points, followed by Finlay Greenleaf, Dasa Scanella, Jason Brunnock, Ramunas Wickes. Dan Titcombe in first place with a perfect score of 2,000 points. In second place, we've got Russell Walsh, 1,895 points. And in third place, we've got Morgan Maxwell with 1,687 points. Fourth place, Finlay Greenleaf, 1,650 points. And Dasa Scanella in fifth place, 1,615 points. Followed by Jason Brunnock, Ramunas Wickes, Darren Martin, Leo Brimacombe, Alex Young, and Liam Mitchell in 11th place. Fedi, you are our female champion. How did the season go for you overall?
Quite well. It started a little bit slower. I needed a bit of a warm-up, but no, I'm very, very proud of my season and how I managed it. I didn't do the last few races because I had a bit of a niggle, but you know, I was lucky enough to secure it early-ish.
Almost the exact opposite than Dan, wasn't it? So first place we had Fedi, Nuclear Phoenix, 4 races, 1,965 points. In second place we had Charlotte Doheny, 1,865 points. Third place Karen Macquarie, 1,835 points. Really close between those two, and we'll talk about that in the episode. Fourth place, our very own Becky Neal, 1,745 points. In fifth place, Tamar Barkley, 1,665 points. Followed by Lizzie Brimacombe in sixth place, Pip Rainbow in seventh, Emma McRae in eighth, Laura Haywood in ninth, and Ruth Battersea in 10th place. The season, wow, it was a long season. We had 8 races over 7 months, and we start with Tartan Warrior back all that way back in March. Chris, you was there, weren't you? You went up to Tartan Warrior. It was a whole weekend. So we had the 3K series, which we kind of talked about. We had the short racing, and then, of course, we had the long race. Do you want to just quickly kick us off with Tartan Warrior?
Oh, where do I start? I mean, it kicked off with a real good good start race, wasn't it? I mean, everyone showed up. It was a really packed race. Dan, was you there? I can't quite remember. I don't think you was.
No,
was you?
I wasn't. I wasn't there.
So the champion wasn't there, but everyone else basically turned up. We had a great race. We raced there at the 3K to start with at the weekend, and then we went on to the 8K race. Bit shorter than what we usually find in the longer race championship season one that we have. And it just went off to a flying start. It just showed who put that training in over Christmas, who had the speed to go. I think the women had a really good battle between Fede and Karen on her own turf. It was an exciting race, really, really exciting. Good course as well. Gavin did a tremendous job with the course there. Tremendous. It was probably one of the best races we had this year.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, like I said the previous year, Tartan Warriors course is definitely one of my favorite in terms of obstacles. There is one that I didn't particularly like. We all know that, but yeah, the submersion part.
But it was sunny that part. It got sunny by then.
Yeah, I mean,
You didn't even notice
I'm still a
it.
bit Italian. I didn't notice because I skipped it.
Yeah.
I picked the run.
Well, this is the defining moment of this race, really, wasn't it? With you and Karen, because the situation was you either go underneath the logs in the burn or run 3 sides of a rectangle around a soggy field, and you were ahead, right? And then you tell the story.
Just barely, to be honest. I just caught up with Karen again, and so we were pretty much head to head. But I knew of my incredible inability of dealing with cold water from the previous day. My hands were just a disaster. I mean, so I just made the smartest decision I could for myself. I will try to get a bit better dealing with the cold in the meantime.
Do you think that was a defining moment that cost you that race, or do you think it?
I wouldn't say it cost me, but I think I still made the right decision for myself at the time. I don't think I would have been very fast through the obstacle, and I would have possibly even lost the podium at some point instead, because I really quite shut off when I get cold in terms of brain work and general work.
We had quite good footage of that. Go on, Becky.
The Saturday, the day before we did the shorter race, the 3K, I was really surprised at the number of people sort of failing the obstacles towards the end, because it was cold in terms of like it was raining as well. So people's arms were like kind of cold, even though we didn't go in the head under bit. But I think people were a little bit shocked by that. And so we're a bit cautious towards the end of this race, but probably had learned quite a lot from the Saturday if they'd done both events. Yes, but I think a lot of times kind of changes, a lot of gaps were made or lost in that last section of the race. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, it's a really cool race. And to be honest, Karen deserved it. She was super fast in over obstacle and during the race in the running part as well. And yeah, it was really good to race her as well.
Home turf advantage,
I think, and
Yeah.
all race.
She did.
Me and Josie had a sprint finish as well, going over the.
True, I remember that on the low rig and stuff, wasn't it?
She was much stronger and faster up the hill because the sprint finish was uphill. Yes, very exciting. And it was your birthday the next
Oh
day.
yeah, I mean nobody cares, but even if I was a bit sick afterwards, we did have an amazing run, and it was gorgeous. I loved Scotland. It was really, really good.
That was the start of all your holidays, wasn't it, Becky?
They never end.
The first of very many, I think.
They never end.
We're getting good use out of the UKOCR jet. So just to go through the results in first place for the female, Karen McCrory, second place Federica Di Caria, and in third place Josie Lloyd. In the male, we had Russell Walsh taking the win that time, followed by Morgan Maxwell and Ricky Carino. It was really interesting because, guys, I remember the preview, and we were talking, and I'll go through your picks as well. We were talking, kind of Freddie or Karen, only because Karen has come from strength to strength, and she showed it there. But kind of home field advantage and everything else, and I think everything just came together for her.
Yeah, definitely. She won the day before as well on the short course, so she was very confident. And even watching some of her techniques, as we've talked about before, like the way she does some of those obstacles is just really efficient. So even when there's changes to the rig and everything, she's just so smooth over everything.
Oh yeah, I stalk her Strava. I see what she does. She's up there at Tartan Warrior practicing OCR long run. I can tell.
Yeah,
she's on it.
And like the cold version as well, so she was ready.
Yeah.
So in terms of the Becky versus Chris head to head, They both scored 4 points.
Oh, did we?
Ooh,
Yes.
it's a
So
tie.
we move on, and we move down south towards Macclesfield, more towards my my part of the world, to Born Survivor, which was the second race of the series. This was in April towards Macclesfield, kind of just on the M6. In first place in the males, we had Dan Titcombe, second place Russell Walsh, and then third place Mo Maxwell. In the female, we had first place Imi Hale, second place Karen Macquarie, and in third place Josie Lloyd. Dan, let's go to you about the race.
Yeah, so the race started off, so it was the first race for me of the season, and it was also the first race that I was wearing the Wild Forest top. Now, I tried to be a bit cool and sort of play with it a bit, and I wore a hoodie to the start line, not realising that we then had to wear a bib over the top, so it kind of eliminated the whole surprise I'm now part of Wild Forest team. But yeah, so because it started off into the switchbacks on the hills. I remember Finley absolutely darting off at the start and thinking, Jesus, this guy's been training hard over the winter. And then there's a few of us that went wrong over the gate. And then as soon as you sort of jumped the fence and got back into the race, it was essentially just playing a game of catch up. But it was the first time I realised that the course was going to be slow, wet, cold. Because as soon as you got into that field, it was just so boggy. And then just thinking into my head, like, we've got another 9K of this and it's just going to hurt.
Am I right? Did you have an injury prior to this at the end of last year?
Yeah, because I was out in Sparta, Mallorca.
That's it.
So yeah, I basically was coming down the side of the mountain and tripped on a rock and almost face planted into the dirt. Luckily, it was my shoulder hit the floor first, but as I swung through and my feet came over, I basically broke my toe. So I had to spend essentially all the build-up training to Born Survivor on the bike. So I was doing intervals, no running at all, and it was like, yeah, am I going to be fit enough to actually do this well? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So
I think I remember messaging you, trying to find out how you were sort of feeling prior to the race, to see if you had the right legs and that. Just not just for like the points on the who's hot, but just to see if Morgan wanted some points to see if he was in good shape or not.
yeah.
He's so sneaky. He wasn't actually interested in your injury. But we're glad he came back for it. And it was quite cold as well, right? I remember a very cold death on the end of the phone after that. And it was because of the amount of water that you went in and out. And he was also explaining how it was really challenging in terms of like this just tough obstacles from a terrain sense. And that although it was kind of flat, it was the ankle dodgy ground that was also a challenge in that race. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was racing with Russell at the front, and I was kind of picking the line as best as I could, and he was just following me, seeing where not to go, where to go, and was just on my shoulder pretty much the entire way around. But he's got the legs for like bounding across the field because he's got best part of a foot taller than me. So it's like off he goes.
Yeah, and Ellie did really well in that race. She was fourth, and I think there was quite a close finish between Karen and Josie, if I remember rightly. Sort of came down to that ramp at the end with the climb at the top. Is that right? Maybe. Good.
Yeah.
I
think
remember
so.
as well. A shout out to Ruth Battersea. I think she finished 6th or 7th, but she went on because it was then part of the endurance series as well. And Dan, you were saying how tough it was running on the first lap because again, it just churned up land. It's like farmland, so it's there was like horses or whatever being ridden over the land, so it's just so rutted. But imagine kind of doing three. I think Ruth finished with 3 laps of that, and it just got boggier. Because I only did 2 laps. Like I don't want to do any more of this. It just got boggier and boggier, and it just started really sapping your strength. So shout out to Ruth there on finishing that. We move on to Nuclear Races, Nuclear Challenge Cup. Oh, sorry. Let me just go back 1 second. Let's go to head-to-head scores. We had 3 from Becky and Chris. You got 4. Correct.
Did I?
Yes.
Was that message to Dan?
This
That
is shocking
made
me
it
already.
possible.
Yeah.
Is that it?
It's not over till it's over, Chris.
Yeah, I can see me going downhill. I usually do. I'm usually a slow burn, or is that right? No, I'm not a slow burn. That's a different thing, isn't it?
That's the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm something else.
You're just slow twitch, aren't
Peaked
you?
too soon. Peaked in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we moved further down south to Essex, to, of course, the secret bunker, to Nuclear Challenge Cup. First place, we have Federica Di Carrier. Second place, Charlotte Dehany. And in third place, Karen McQuarrie. And in the males, in the first place, we had Dan Titcombe. Second place, Das Ganella. And third place, Russell Walsh. Becky, you are the queen of nuclear. Why don't you give us a quick rundown of the course and the day, I guess, and then we'll go to Fedi and Dan to talk about their race.
Yes, I have it committed to memory usually. This was the national trials as well for the standard distance to decide the top 3 would get automatic slots to be the elite team for Euros and Worlds, or Worlds was it? Because of the timing of the race. So that was kind of what was up for grabs a little bit, but of course the UKOCR series points were crucial here. We did have, I'm trying to remember. I remember the start trench and then running through the forest for quite a long time. And they took out that aquaphobia part this year, didn't they? So we didn't have too much water, but we still had the death slide and the zip line and everything. And the long high rig, is that what it's called? That's comes off the gorilla bars, Fede, you remember? That was quite lengthy, wasn't it? And it was quite close to the other one, similar to the year before that. They're kind of blending together, the 2 years, because the year before we had that trouble with that slippery nunchuck, didn't we, on the low rig, but it wasn't that situation this year. Is that right? I can't remember.
No, I think the low rig had a different
It was more manageable. I think it was stars and rings and a rope.
Yeah. And it was also slightly warmer. That was a key for my success, I suppose. The fact that, because I actually don't mind the water if it's not that cold. So the biggest difference for me was that I actually quite enjoyed nuclear this year because it was a sunny day.
Yeah, and we had a different bit of running in some of the longer fields just before that, which was actually quite new, quite different. But then we all came back towards the finish area, and that's actually where the positions changed quite a lot because I was in second, and then Karen first overtook me, then Shai overtook Karen just towards the finish, I think. So it was that we were actually working pretty hard to try and catch Fede, and the positions did come down to like the last kilometre because you've got that extra kind of hill up the back with the slip and slide, and then the ramp, and then the travelator to finish. The travelators didn't have quite as much drama as the year before. It was more manageable. Everyone did it first time, I think. But yes, we're going to have the actual national championships, so not the trials, the actual national British championships for the standard distance at Challenge Cup this coming year. So, different race director, expect something exciting.
Definitely. Yeah, it's going to be interesting this year. This was one of the races I missed, so like due to injury, but I was so gutted about missing this one. Dan, you had to race against Leon.
I did indeed.
I can't. You actually beat him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Leon was very impressed.
Yeah. So he was down for the full weekend because he was staying. I believe he was staying with you, Becky, wasn't he? But it's the case of when he came down to race, he was like, "Oh, I've just done the Spartan Beast race the day before." I was like, "Okay, Leon, but you're still pretty much a professional athlete, so it's not going to be anything easy." So yeah, it was, as soon as the race started, it was all I wanted to do was get out hard, get in front, and just sort of try and control the race as much as I could. And well, it's one of those days where everything just went right.
I think Leon's one of the few guys on the planet you got about 6 inches on him, haven't you?
Yeah, at least.
In height.
About. Yeah.
Yes, I remember because it was London Marathon, then it was Spartan the next week, and then it was Challenge Cup, and Leon was staying with Das.
Yeah.
From those few days, but I think Das wasn't that far behind him either. But as soon as people realised that actually he was going to be taking part in this race, there was quite a different kind of atmosphere. It was really interesting to see how that athlete that we kind of see on the internet quite a lot and do big international races, how they would fare on our kind of course that wasn't the OCRWC course, for example. So I think it was actually a really interesting like reference point for the UK athletes. Whether or not it like interfered with the results is another story, but like I think it was just a really useful and interesting and welcomed reference point, really. Like you want to see how you're stacking up against people before you go and race them on the field, especially on like your home course. So yeah, I think you get a bit more respect both ways. So it was like an interesting part of the competition.
Definitely.
I forget to unpress the mute button. And I was just looking at the spreadsheet. I don't know what was going on with that. So in the head-to-head, we have Becky scoring 3 points. Chris also scoring 3 points. Still close. We moved further back north, back towards my hometown in Grantham. We had the British Championships hosted by Spartan Midlands. That was mid-June, so should be getting warmer. And there's lots and lots of stories, I guess, going on, British champs for all the different podiums. But we have in the male, the first place, Dan Titcombe. Second place, Tom Tweddle returns. And in third place, we had Russell Walsh. In the female, Federica Di Caria. Second place, Josie Lloyd. And in third place, Karen McQuarrie. Fedi, let's go to you. Let's talk about your race.
Oh, it was actually a really, really good race. I felt good that day. I remember I actually managed, which I usually don't do all the time, just to lead ahead and managed a little bit that lead. I remember that course was actually quite fun. There was that incredible sandbag with barbed wire into play drag, which was hilarious. I actually quite like carries. I don't mind them too much. I'm not that fast, but that was a really fun combination. And also the Taurus rig that British Obstacle Sport added. I definitely added like a bit of spice to the race, because I love Spartan racing in terms of the courses and the running part. It's no denying that I like that bit, but I also really enjoy the obstacles. So that was quite cool to have all the elements of like the firefighters and all the rig. And I think that actually the final Spartan rig for that specific race was made quite challenging by the thick ropes and the up and down rings. And so, yeah, it was actually really cool race. I remember that.
And there was no spear.
True. That must be it.
I think you're the only one thinking that. But I remember everyone commenting about how fantastic the course was. Like, it was fast, and there was a whole range of obstacles. Obviously, like the most obstacles we've ever seen in a course that long. Plus, we changed the distance, so it was like a Spartan 10 super, like a 10k, plus a couple of extra k, plus the extra obstacles, and minus the spear. So I think it was actually quite different. Probably the best Spartan race.
I really enjoyed the course. Spartan, the collaboration between Spartan and British Obstacle Sport was great.
And the ramp from Tough Mudder, the Everest.
True, the Everest ramp.
That was actually quite hard. We remember we were allowed to have a second attempt, or however many attempts, and there was the alternative one if you had an extra penalty kind of obstacle there. But yeah, very cool, very fast paced. Like Josie was running really well. Everyone won.
Oh, she was super close to me.
Yeah, people weren't surprised, but it was like a really good reminder just how fast Josie is, and on the carries, and she's great at obstacles. She's a really good all-rounder in terms of OCR. I'd love to see her more again. But yeah, Karen pulled it off as well. We were kind of toing and froing a little bit. Yeah.
Dan, how did your race go?
Painful. Being pushed to the absolute limit by Tom it's one of the hardest. It definitely is the hardest race I had this year, just because he was so on the limit of just like the kind of caliber of racer that he is, and because the way that we race is completely different. He's like, his running is very flowy, it's really smooth to sort of run alongside when it comes to the carries, because he's got the weight and he's got the muscle to just absolutely fly on a carry. Whereas I'm trying to make up time on doing the obstacles quickly, trying to get in a short, sort of like sharp ascents, corners, the technical section of running, trying to gain as much ground as I could. And yeah, coming down to the final sort of few obstacles of like the Taurus firefighters, the rig at the very end, and just being side by side and having people cheering, like people not expecting it to literally come down to the wire, I think was one of the things that really impressed people with that race.
Yeah, we had that really great footage of it, so we all saw it. Yeah, I think when we were speaking to all you guys, you athletes, Tom, yourself, and that, I think what everyone was saying mostly that it made it such a good race was the level of competition between everyone and how close they were at racing. So because everyone was battling to and fro the whole race and just giving it everything they got, I think that's what gave everyone the excitement and the real sort of race atmosphere was just that battle that was going on throughout.
And I think that atmosphere actually carried through to like the podium. Do you remember the podium ceremony? Like in the sunshine, everyone crowded around. Like there was like 100 of people out there with the because they had the junior championships on the same day, and all the prizes came out together, and like it was a real, I think, for T to have like such a successful.
It's muted.
Becky, everything you've just said,
Yeah.
none of us heard.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Nope.
So while Becky sorts her microphone out, Dan, I seem to, so I was commentating with Alan, and as Chris said, there was lots of coverage that we had, some great coverage, because I think Grantham would just had much better kind of mobile signal. I think I seem to remember, did you drop off a little bit on the twinkle toes, the balance beam, and then you caught up again towards the carries, or was it the other way around? It seemed one of you, and I can't remember, that he just dropped off. We thought, oh, he's gone. And then all of a sudden, once you got back to I think it was the carry, bucket carry up the hill, you all seem to kind of get all back together again. And kind of, I think there's 3 or 4 of you actually within relatively close distance with each other, and thought, oh, we really do have a race on here. Yeah,
so it was really fortunate that obviously Claire managed to get onto Buggy and was there filming around for the live stream, because it's also having, when you're at the front, when you've got somebody sticking their arm out of the side of a buggy filming you, you're like, I can't make any mistakes. I've got to make this look good for the live stream at home. And it was really, really good, sort of just having that slight bit of difference at the front. So obviously filming me and Tom running around, I said, hopefully made it all exciting for people to watch back at home.
Do it for the
when
fans,
we came
then.
up to the for the fans. Yeah, when we came up to the first carry, it was very much so I think it was the main one was the sandbag under the barbed wire crawl. Now, I tried to do something of sort of like pushing the sandbag, crawling alongside it, and it didn't work. And then I turned around and looked at Tom, who was coming underneath, who was holding it on his chest and rolling. I was like, well, that made it so much easier. But by that point, all of the lead that I built up, because Tom failed on the balance beam, and that's why I managed to make a little bit of a gap, but he caught all of that back up on the carry. And then everyone else then looked at us doing it, think, brilliant idea, and we'd just do it quicker. So when it came up to the end of the carry into the plate drag, we put it on top. There was, I think, 6 of us that had gone from being like 2 minutes apart to like 20 seconds apart. And then it dropped down again into the bucket carry, where again, everyone regrouped.
Yeah.
Tom made a bit of a gap because he, like I said, he flies on the carries. And then it was just a case of put myself into the hurt locker and try and catch up.
Yeah, you've had to do that a few times this year, but it just shows the level of how much I've witnessed it, how quick he can get back up to speed and catch people. It is impressive. It's really good to see. Just need to work on them carries, I think.
I don't think that's going to change. I'm not going to.
You've got to have one low attribute, and you've got to have one low.
Yeah,
one.
Exactly.
So Tom was a bit of a trendsetter. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the podium ceremony as well. A highlight. Everyone from the community being there, with the junior athletes from their championships as well. So I think that was a pretty special moment. But the next day was also the Spartan series, one of the Spartan series races, and they were some incredibly close races as well. So I think the course just facilitated, of course, the spear throwers back in for that, and like the firefighters were out. But that was really exciting to watch as well. And we had some of the international athletes race on the Saturday as well. So we had an international wave for the national championships, like Gustav and Jon Denmark, and they were comparing their times. I remember it was actually very close to our podium men as well. So that reference point is really nice and useful just for our athletes to have that kind of insight before going to Euros as well. So I think there were some really impressive performances that weekend.
Yeah, those two turning up, it wasn't very nice because they looked too good, didn't they? Even Gustav.
Yeah, it was like 1 second behind your time down, I think.
So yeah.
Or Jonas.
In the head-to-head, we had Becky scoring 2 points, Chris scoring 4 points.
Oh my God, what's happening?
I know. We're in a different dimension.
We move across to the southwest. We went to Rude Rampage. It was the 14th of July. Trowbridge, somewhere kind of towards Bath, for those that don't know that area, but it's really worth going to. Male, we had Dan Titcombe, Jason Brunnock, and Finley Greenleaf heading for one of his first podiums. And then in the female, we have Federica Di Caria, Lizzie Brimacombe also making her first podium, and Charlotte Duhani. Fedi, let's talk about your race.
Well, The race was fun. It's an old school OCR race, and it was fun. I just had a bit of an incident during the race. That made the next few days a bit challenging. Luckily, sorted out. But yeah, it was a good run.
Didn't slow down too much though. Still won.
I realized I
Yeah.
realized after what was going on and how problematic it was. In all honesty, I didn't think much of it straight away. I went for lunch with my friends and went to A&E afterwards.
There you go.
Classic OCR racer. I was pleased for Ellie though, and I could try and get us a Lady Nuclear Phoenix podium. I wasn't there.
Ellie was really good, and it was great fun to race with her. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, we had Ellie on the after show, didn't we? Yeah, I remember. It was really, really good.
Dan, how was your race?
Okay, it wasn't my best performance, and I'm not entirely sure why. Like, even looking back at it this year, I kind of turned up to the start of the race thinking, yeah, this is feeling okay, feeling all right, and then just got around the first lap and I was like, why am I just feeling so drained? I was just so tired, and I don't know why. But I remember they set the women's race off first. So when we got up to the pontoons, or the sort of the donuts, everyone, like us as the front sort of men, caught all of the female runners up, and it was a bit of a a clash.
You got me.
I didn't catch it. No, but yeah, I know we got to it, and I missed time to jump with, I think it was Pip Rainbow, and we jumped off the platform at the same time. She landed it, and I ended up in the water. So I was like, great. And by that point, I see Jason and Finley jump over my head to the next platform. I was like, okay, all right, I've just got to get in and get out and catch them up. But then, kind of as I was crawling up, there was more people sort of jumping and getting in the way, and it kind of just sort of ended up a bit sort of a bottleneck almost. But after the next bit of running through the field, it was a case of head down. It's like, right, well, they're about 2 minutes in front. Let's just see what I can do to catch them.
I'm joking. You were incredibly fast. The guys passed me at about I think it was 4 or 5K, not even. And I was like, Jesus, how slow am I? They just flew past me. Him, Finley, and Jason. I was just like, bye. The game for me in that race was like, let's see how long I can hold them off. Not very long.
I think that's a good amount of time. 5-6K with only 2 minutes is a good amount to hold them off, Ellie. That's good. But I think Jason and Finley actually do well on this course, don't they? I'm sure the year before they both did well too. And we were really surprised at Finley the year before. We were suddenly he was very fast. And I know I've heard quite a few comments this year that Finley is getting faster for longer, and now he's got a new 5K P as well. I see.
Yeah, very, very fast.
Definitely
grown up. 5K PB.
Got
good luck.
So good luck, guys. But I think that was one of the races where he actually was able, because he's so agile and nimble. I think the course as well on that course, and Jason's had some close finishes there as well, and he's just really strong over multi-terrain. That's what his favorite kind of running is, isn't it? Even though it wasn't hilly enough for him, of course. But yeah, they're both good runners.
Unless there are 2,000-meter revert is about flat for Jason. So
absolutely, and we talk about Finley in a little bit more detail, Chris, but he actually took some scalps there. It's not as if we always talk about which one is a race, who's going, who's not going, and Rude Rampage is possibly, we mentioned, because it's in between championships and other things, so there may not be as many people, but he still beat Liam Mitchell there, Jason Molan was there, James Burton, Ramunas Wickets, so it's not as if he's beat kind of no one's going, but he's just getting better and better, Chris.
Yeah, and it's on the longer stuff. I mean, it's getting that enjoy. We've all known he's been a fast runner, but now, like Becky said, he's managing to hold it, and you can't put him out of doing obstacles wrong because he's phenomenal at obstacles, and he's just getting that speed. It's a pain in the arse, really. He's only got to thank his mum, because his mum does everything for him. So big up to Finley's mum. That's what I'm saying. Dawn, yes.
And I think Dawn actually also, I know Finley maybe didn't agree at some point in his life. I don't know. He'll have to speak for himself on his own podcast. But there was he wasn't doing stepping up to elite because he was still developing, still young. He was too old or too good for the kids button races, but he wasn't yet going to try and start anything.
Oh no, it's gone again, Becky.
Becky, we've lost you.
I bet every time it's something you're going to say something golden as well.
Absolutely. So like something just the best thing in the world, and it just goes off.
I'm very excited.
We can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
It's left again.
Hang
Not
on.
again yet.
I can read your lips. Say something.
About me.
Oh, she's saying Chris is
Awesome.
amazing. Oh, yeah.
Well, Becky's got some technical issues. We'll go on to. Oh, hold on. Head to head. Where the hell's my thing gone? Right. So, Becky, you scored 4 points that time.
Yes.
Chris scored 5 points.
Oh,
I'm steaming ahead.
We moved not very much further along. It was the Spartan Southwest Sprint over in Badminton. That happened mid-August. I seem to remember it was a red hot weekend. Oh, Tough Mudder was the day before as well. That's probably why I remember it so well. In the female, we had Federica Di in first place, Rachel Decker in second place, and Karen McQuarrie comes back into third place. In the male, we had Roman Toff in first place, Dan Titcombe in third place, and Fergie. Is he still there? Fergie in third place. Fergie, why don't you just...
I think Andrea won that race, and me and Rachel tied in second.
And then
Yeah.
me and Karen tied in fourth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Yes,
hold on.
Andrea won that. Is she a member?
No. it's
No.
not on there.
Well,
In the score. She's not a member, so in the score. Sorry. So, enough. Let me start this bit again then,
I was
or not
supposed to
start
get
this
the
again.
same point.
Federica Di and Rachel Decker both get the same points at 450 points. Andrea's not listed because she's not a member. Karen McQuarrie came in third place with 415 points. Becky Neal then came in fourth place with 400 points. So you and Rachel both scored the same. That was it. I remember that race very well now because I was with a little bit. So, Feddy.
Yeah, there
Sorry
was
for messing that up. Let's talk
it's
about
fine.
the final bit. And let's talk about your race.
I just remember the finish, and it was pretty epic. I loved kind of causing chaos and mayhem with Rachel because everyone was just like, and now what do we do? I remember them watching videos and then coming back to us, and we were just like, whatever, guys. It was really fun, and it was such a cool sprint finish. It was all because Rachel missed her spear, and I got it for once in my lifetime. And then we just basically, there was spear back to back to monkey bar, and we did it pretty much the same speed. And then we were like completely like one next to each other, step by step, until we like five jumped and finish line.
I think you took out Emily Ferguson, the social media manager, as well, didn't you? As you trying.
I think that was Rachel, but I mean, we were very close, so pretty much.
And then me and Karen tried to take out the 3 podium.
Yeah.
Winners. Taking up all the finish line. But what I remember about that race was the bucket carry, because it was like 550 meters long.
Wow.
On like the 5K, because it was a 6K, 5K, of course.
That's right. And it was hidden as well, wasn't it? You couldn't actually see the turning point, so you didn't really know how far it was until you turned and go, oh, wow, this is far.
My calves were going to explode because I had about over a minute on Karen and I got overtaken. I nearly got caught by Shy, I think. And then, yeah, Libby got the spear, I got the spear. And that was like quite a dramatic last kilometre of the race, I think. It was a really fast start as well. Do you remember the first mile? Sort of downhill. There was just some of the hurdles, the like chest height barriers.
Yeah, it's a really fast sprint.
But quite a good obstacle density, I thought.
Yeah, there was a big gauntlet at the end of carries and so on that made a massive difference. I think in the men's race as well.
Dan, how did your race go?
Well, mine is the spear throw, pretty good. Yeah, so I remember this one. We had like a lot. I don't know what for whatever reason, but there was about 10, 15 international races, I think, turn up for this one. There was quite a few, I think, of the Holland athletes. There was a lot of the support. I remember, obviously, had Roman Toff turn up. You got a few of the UAE members as well. So I remember standing on the start line, looking around. There's not actually that many people here I recognise. Like, there's a lot of foreign names, and I'm thinking this race could literally go anywhere. Like, you don't know how they perform because you've never seen them race. and it was a simple case of, right, let's get out, see what happens, sit on the back of, say, the front 2 or 3, and then if the pace is hard, just back off a little bit, but if it's manageable, just stay out in front. And I think we clocked the first mile of the race in just over 5 minutes. I think it was 5:05 for the first mile. It was rapid. And then we got to the barbed wire crawl. I'd only got about 2 or 3 seconds in front. And then it was just a case of like, right, let's get through this barbed wire crawl, roll it as quickly as I can. Almost lost my headband, so I had to go back and retrieve it. And then it was right, let's get into the zone and just keep going and see what happens. And yeah, managed to get a good lead and lost it all at the spear.
Wow, those things. Having these races against these international races now, Dan, are you thinking like, I've really got to race against them more often, get my name out there, because we don't see you as much as we should do in these European races, and we know that you can handle these European races. So you're going to get out there and show your face a bit more.
Yeah, so my plan next year is I'm going to do the OCR series. That's the big plan for next year.
We'll get into that later, I guess.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
I see Will looking at me like, stop saying anything.
So in the important head-to-head, we have Becky scoring 3 points and Chris scoring 2 points. So you pulled
Ooh.
one back there, Becky. Yeah.
Not enough yet. It's
Wow.
getting close to the.
So we
Taking
cross
my
the
shoes and
country
socks
once
off,
again.
and I'm still in the lead.
We crossed the country once again, back over to Essex. Body Hub Beast, which was one of the new races of the UKOCR series. And we have different winners. In the male, we have Ramunas Wickes in first place, Russell Walsh in second place, and in third place, Dan Titcombe. For the female, we had Charlotte Doheny in first, Tamar Barkley in second place, and Laura Haywood in third place. We had Tamar here as a guest. And we also had Claire Rosser as a guest as well, because I think Becky was off on her holidays in the UKOCR jet somewhere along the line. So, Dan, let's talk about yours. And Chris, let's talk about Ramunas as well. But Dan, let's talk about the race first.
So the race was 3 laps of I think it was just over 2K course. The first one was the running lap. So you basically ran the main parts of the course, skipped the technical obstacles, but you still had to do the mandatory runs like the walls, the crawl and stuff like that. Then as soon as you started the second lap, it was straight into a rather nasty jerry can carry, where the jerry cans were 3/4 full, so you couldn't get a good balance point if you put it on your shoulders. So you just had to kind of farmers carry it all the way around. And then it was just into an absolute obstacle gauntlet, just literally back-to-back obstacles. And it was the one race of the year which was, I think everybody was hurting because it was a warm day. Everyone's forearms were absolutely pumped, and it was just, it was not very nice. It was an absolutely brilliant race though, but yeah, just wasn't very nice.
Yeah, this was a great race. You actually got me back for the kick to the head I gave you at Nuts.
Yeah,
you actually gave me one
back.
back you gave me one back on the crawl, so we're even now.
Even good.
But that was such a hard race. I remember it being the trouble with the Body Hub race. It just sapped everyone's attributes in different ways. We all had to run fast because Daniel, obviously, you're a fast runner. Russell's a fast runner. Ramunas, he's a strong obstacler. I'm a bit of an all-arounder, but it just meant that everyone was pushing at different points. And I think we all just burnt different matches at different sections. And it was just gruelingly hard, really hard. Great race, back and forth. I think on the live stream, it was constantly changing positions. Really, really exciting. It was probably the only race I really did this year, but it was one of my favourite races all year.
I do remember that because Claire and there was lots of people recording, because it was such a close course. We were able to capture everything apart from the jerry can carry. And there was a point when, where's Dan gone? What's happened to Dan? It just felt that you'd gone out there for so long, and people were catching you up at that point. Then, and of course, as you've said, your carries may not be quite your strong point, but I think for us, people watching on the live stream, and it must be Alan and I that were commentating, such a great race, and just all the action was there. You didn't have to just keep with the front runners. We saw who was second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. We saw the whole lot going through. Such an exciting race.
I know Shy was really excited for this race. Like I think she had her eyes set on it, you know. She thought it would suit her and it certainly did. She won the race. But that kind of like strength with the jerry cans and then the back-to-back obstacles, like she's very strong at sort of muscling through them. But also Tamar is really excellent over that short distance as well and really strong on obstacles and has like loads of experience. So I'm sure was secretly aiming for the win as well. And I think it was quite close. I was on the plane at the time.
Oh, it was so close. Do you know what? You had to be there to watch this race.
Okay.
Like we was watching Shyla and Tamar coming around the corners and things, and like we was all sitting in it because the spectatability of Body Hub was amazing. So we was all chit chatting, and every time it was like, oh, who's putting too much effort down here? How hard do you reckon they've run on the sandbag carry, or sorry, the jerry can carry? We just didn't know, and it was just like so close. And Laura Hayward did amazing as well. She is super duper strong on these obstacles. Pip as well. Pip nails them. She actually used a good tactic. We're using gloves.
Extra grip.
Yeah, she took the time, got the gloves out, used it to get across some of them obstacles. There were some real good tactics played.
So what were the penalties for not doing the obstacle? Remind us.
It was only it was a very short penalty, probably a little bit too short than what it needs to be. But was it jerry cans again
at the end?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Russell was the only one who did it.
Oh, okay. So it was a good balance if people weren't failing, but it was a real big challenge still. That was like the limit for the men, at least.
Yeah, it was decent.
Cool. Glad to have something like that in the series.
Yeah, mixed it up. It was probably because we don't have a lot of races with really high density obstacles and things that like, well, when the obstacles are stacked one after the other, we don't have a race in the UK like that. So it was a real decent race to have.
Yeah, it was a really good addition into the series because I think it was you're testing people on not only these shorter sort of, well, I say the shorter, the sort of more intense obstacles through to obviously you got the British Champs Nuclear Challenge Cup, which is the distance ones. So your challenge, like yourself as the UKOCR series, you should be able to do everything from the short obstacle intense all the way through up to the 15, 20k longer endurance races. And I think it is a good balance of having an obstacle race like that in the series.
Well, in terms of how it stressed your body, it was shorter in terms of distance, but on the fatigue it gave your body, it was more distance on upper body than it was on any other race. So it kind of like balanced itself out. It is that same distance, just in a different way.
Absolutely. And I think what we were talking about in the recap show as well, Chris, when we had Claire on, is that it was great to have something a bit different and a bit shorter. And I think it was a red line in a different way, because I don't think you were redlining just out of pure exhaustion, but redlining just because of your grip and your upper body strength just being right at that limit. But Dan, I completely agree that the UKOCR series as a whole is about kind of the best attributes, Chris, of a UKOCR runner as a whole. You know, you've got the 3K series, you've got the endurance series, but this is the one that spans across the whole of UKOCR. And having something like this, which was a wild card, you know, it's a new race to the series, so we'd never really know how it would turn out. But I think from what we had from the feedback, it seems to be one of the standout races of the series. Yeah,
Dale did an amazing job on that one.
So you'd like to know, Chris, you scored 3 points. We're not going to count this because it's unfair on Becky because she wasn't around. She was off on her holiday somewhere.
What?
But you did score. You
at the World Championships. Thank you. I didn't do the previous show, did I? No.
We had
Did
Taylor
I get
on.
4 points?
You got 4? No.
But not being wrong.
To be fair,
who would have you picked? Go on.
Okay.
Don't cheat.
I'll just read out the results list.
If it was, who would you have picked?
Well, I probably would have put Shy and Tamer at the top. Yeah. I don't know who I would have put a third. Maybe I would have put Pip as
probably
third.
Laura.
Yeah.
Third, yeah.
Yeah, probably Laura. Yeah, and then the men's, I probably would have actually considered Ramonas in it. I've gone off the result here, so I am doing this. Oh, he did win, didn't he? He did win. And Chris, I probably would have put you in the top 3, even fourth. And maybe Russell or Dan.
I was just looking to see if I did ask Tamar, and there's
No, I don't think you did.
No, I didn't. I just asked you. I'm just looking at the notes. But anyway, Yeah, Chris, you would have scored 3 points for that one. We can move on back up my way to the final race of the season. Towards the end of October, it was 20th of October. Tough Mudder Northwest, which is towards Chester, 10 miles. Guys, you remember muddy as hell. In the male, we had first place Dan Titcombe, second place Russell Walsh, and in third place Das Ganella. In first place, our very own Tough Mudder queen Becky Neal. Second place Charlotte Dehany, and in third place Libby Joyce. I was there. I was commentating. Chris, you was commentating. But Becky, Dan, you were there. It was bloody cold, bloody muddy, right?
Yeah.
It was like
Very
wet,
cold.
like wet mud. Like it was marshy. And there was obviously a lot of water obstacles as well, wasn't there, Dan? Like including the ice one and block nest and everything. So I'd say like it was like there was that thick mud on Mud Mile, like the really dark, because it's the mud that stays there, the mud miles that stay there on the course. They don't like redig them, right? So that mud was like super mud, and then there was just loads of water. You would have loved it, Fede.
Fede had already secured her win, I think, by now, didn't he?
Fede had her problems starting.
She made sensible decisions, unlike some athletes.
It was the weekend after the Spartan short course world championship in Croatia, and sadly my right foot flared up. So I've been dealing with plantar fasciitis since. It's getting there. It's getting there. We are seeing some light, but the reason why I didn't do that race because I wasn't able to run at the time.
It was a lot of running, that one. Yeah, don't you think, Dan? We had so lovely and Will, you did a lot of running too, around the edges. But like they had the TM shaped into the run course, and it felt like there was a lot of different fields that we visited. I enjoyed it, and they had the tilting ladders with the rings obstacle, and they had the doorknob one. What's it called, Will? Just the tip. Just the tip, and that was actually challenging. I think me and Das and actually Scottish lady were the only people to complete it, so it was hard.
I remember very early on it was misty and quite, so that obstacle was very wet. So there were quite a few people failing that early on, wasn't there, Chris?
Yeah, we was watching it on the live feed. I mean, we saw it because I think beforehand you had a few hanging obstacles, and you could tell that the weather did play a crucial part because people were changing their tactics on obstacles. And I think that just the tip was the only one that sort of changed the goalpost because so
90-second penalties.
Yeah, Das has got it. You missed it, didn't you, Dan?
Yeah, I missed it. Yeah.
So it changed it up a bit. It's made the pack come together and just changed the order. But we didn't know who was actually in third and fourth on the live stream because we didn't know that at that point.
Yeah, because James didn't get it. So that's 90 seconds that he lost there, but they were running together.
I must admit, it was one of the, because we was commentating and it was just brilliant to watch. It was the first time commentating and loved it.
Yeah, it was cool. And Libby ran really well as well. We hadn't seen her at so many races either, other than some of the Spartan ones. So she had a really good, strong run as well.
Yeah, she played the tactic card, didn't she? She had the swim run suit just to make sure she didn't get cold. Because I do believe you guys were saying that first lake swim was pretty nasty.
That was horrible. So I actually fell into it because I went to sort of go into it and I fell in, and then it put me into sort of shock. I was like, no, I need to. That's why when you look back on the live stream, I go back, stand up out of the water to try and calm the breathing down, get the heart rate back down. And from my time as a former triathlete before getting into the UKOCR, it's that I knew I'd be able to catch up on the swim. My swimming's pretty good, so it's like getting there, head down, absolute sprint out to the platform, get up, and by the time I got to the platform, I caught Russell up. So it was playing to the strengths on that side. But yeah, it's not ideal if when the first thing you do, you get into the water, you fall in, you go breathe in and panic.
It was a surprise though. I remember thinking this is colder and longer than I really thought it was going to be. Like we knew it was there, but it was more shocking than I thought it was, especially after we just been into Croatia and swum in that beautiful water in the sunshine. So maybe that's calmer for me. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you was giving some science, Becky, saying that the water was going to be warmer because of some like room temperature or something like that. But you would wrong. Your science just isn't good enough.
Yeah, lakes are surprisingly cold compared to seas.
That's because the Gulf Stream and that pushes the water up, doesn't it? Or something.
Whatever you say.
I remember there was it was so muddy and there was so much rain the week before that actually the very first mud swamp stomp. Actually, they'd cordoned that off, so you just ran through it. But then when I ran the course later, I was surprised how much water there was between the first obstacle, which was cage crawl, wasn't it? Not cage crawl.
The barbed wire crawl.
It's a
Barbed wire crawl, yeah.
the barbed wire one. But actually, you were still going up and down through quite deep puddles, and they're not normally there. So, yeah, as you say, very wet course, very cold course. And I think, Dan, you were unlucky on. So I caught you on this swim, and it's like, oh, something's gone on there. And then by the time you got to the end, you was already back ahead. But being first on just the tip, because the doorknobs are just metal, if you're the first one under, you're going to slip straight off just because the amount of water, and you got no grip on that at all. So anyone going later and as it dried off, that's how they started to complete that obstacle. Because really, it's a relatively easy obstacle that with the mist and the water.
Gloves on. Gloves made a difference on that material.
Yeah,
But the ramp was actually harder. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was going to say on that obstacle, it was as soon as I came off, it's to give the band into the marshal, and then I was spending the entire time on the next running section just looking over my shoulder, watching for Russell to go up to it. I was like, has he failed it? Has he failed it? Has he failed it? And I know that if he had got through it, it was a case of, right, I need to get as much time as I can between me and him. But literally, just as I turned around to one of the turnaround points, I saw him and he was handing his band into the marshal. So there was a bit of relief there for me on that.
That's because he's weak.
I actually thought that the ramp was harder than just the tip. And because, like, I felt like I was worried about pulling my Achilles or something like that. But I've actually got massive bruises on my elbows from, when you smack the top of the plastic. That was really quite painful. And my main tactic during that race was being near a man to do that obstacle with, basically. Everything else was okay.
Well, I'd noticed, hadn't I, Chris, that Shai seemed to run probably the second half with people. It just so happened that there was men probably running at her speed. And so she had the support of someone at the top of the ramp to help pull her up. And, and that's what Tough Mudder is about. That if there's people around, people can help people. And just exactly the tactic you were hoping to have is just someone around just to help you pull up on there. The other thing I was just going to say is that Libby obviously did very, very well. And as you mentioned, Chris, she was in that swim run wetsuit. But I think being in third place and doing so well against the adults is a bit like Finley. She's now coming into her own and taking on the elites and being part of her peers rather than just the young one just coming through. So she's definitely growing into an elite that we all think she's going to be.
They're turning into a full pint, aren't they?
They need to change their title quite quickly.
But you can see from I saw her, what was it, a Strava wrap up of how much elevation she's done this year, and that was, I think, quite impressive. So she has put a lot of effort in, with Jack as well. So yeah, good job.
So that was the final race of the UKOCR season. The wrap up of the scores there. Becky, you scored 5 points. Chris, you also scored 5 points.
Oh no!
Go on, say it.
No.
So the final overall scores: Chris, 27 points. Becky, 24 points.
Congratulations.
I seriously thought I was going to lose. I'm over the moon.
However,
his smile is so big.
However, we're looking at total points. So this was 6 places, first to third for both male and female. And at that point, scoring the points didn't matter where they were. So if you scored someone, you got first place or third place, didn't matter. You named them. If we talk about actual spot on places, so you may have got the first place.
Done this on purpose.
That's what you're meant to be doing. Not just getting the top 3 right, getting them in the right
He's
position.
been working on this for a week or something, isn't he? Probably just to.
It took me ages
build me up,
and
then
I had
pull
to
me
get all
back
my
down.
notes again.
Keep going.
So, in terms of spot on places, so for example, Becky saying Fedi will come first, and she came first. That's what I mean in this instance. Chris, you scored 8 points, so 8 places spot on. Becky, you scored 11 points.
Oh.
Yes.
So you win.
I'm never going to hear the end of it.
Prizes.
Quantity over quality is what I go for. Quality
So who's
over
the
quantity.
actual winner then?
Well, like all good
It's a tie.
cliffhangers, I'll just leave it as it is.
We'll have to do it again.
We'll let the viewers decide. Stick a vote up.
OCR is the winner.
Which doctor wins?
Okay, well, good game, good match. Well done.
Well done. Okay, so let's go over back to the overall standings, because of course, not only did we have the champions Federica de Cara in the female and Dan as the male champion, we of course had the Masters male and the Masters female. So I'm going to go through the top 5. Dasa Scanella, congratulations, first place, 1,615 points. Ramunas Wickus, second place, 1,609 points. Alex Young, 1,441 points. Simon Briggs, 1,385 points, and Tim Krangle in 5th place with 1,309 points. The Masters female, we had Tamar Barkley, first place, 1,665 points, followed by second place Emma McRae, 1,536 points. Laura Haywood comes in 3rd place, 1,496 points. Very close behind her, Ruth Battersea in 4th place, 1,476 points, and Louise Ferriman in 5th place, 1,468 points. But of course, they are just for personal glory. Of course, it was also here. First place, Nuclear Phoenix, 4,650 points. Second place, Rumble Racing, 4,395 points. Third place, Fit Body Farm Freestyle is 4,221 points. Fourth place, Nuclear Wild Forest, 4,113 points. Fifth place, Primal Fitness, 3,733 points. Followed by Field Fit in 6th place, PT Barn Races in 7th place, Team Grit in 8th place, OPP Warriors in 9th place, and in 10th place, OMRM. Becky, let's talk about the teams. And actually, again, Nuclear Phoenix wins again, of course, but it seems to be getting closer and closer. And this team competition actually is becoming a proper team competition.
Yeah, I don't think you could predict it next year. Really, I think we've just managed to hang on, and because you need, quality and a bit of depth in the team. Like sometimes the larger teams that show up a lot. I remember like a really big impression was made at the start of the year on the first race when basically the whole of Rumble went to Tata Moria and took a really early lead, and then like Primal Fitness were doing really well as well after some of the Spartan stuff. But then you need to have sort of 5 scores for men, 5 scores for women. And somebody can't score more than twice. So even if you got Betty with Dan with 4 wins, Betty with 3 wins, was it? Then it's you can't take all of those. So it really comes down to, as we saw with actually, do you remember the national championships? We added up the times for the first 2 men and 2 women, and it was actually really kind of depended on that 4th counter, like the about how much effect had on the team. So I think we're starting to see the strength come through, like in terms of who's coming 3rd and 4th, and that's a really exciting place to be, because sometimes we stop talking after top 3, but actually there's a real battle going on between like 3 to 5, even like up to 10, and especially Emma McRae for Team Nuts has had some really impressive results this year, which has seen her go to the top of the Masters leaderboard. So I don't know whether there's going to be any team changes over the off season. I don't know how much people have been talking about that or anything, but I think next year will going to be quite different, maybe a little bit unpredictable, some close battles, and I don't know whether people are going to be carefully considering the tactics or looking at who's going to which ones, because obviously people are running for themselves as well, but some careful maths from some of the teams might actually go a long way next year.
Ferg was chatting about it at the beginning of the year, just doing a few transfers, wasn't he? He's coming over. He's doing some, what do they call it? Some proper transfers.
Transfer window?
You mean that memorable night in which you swapped me? Was I going to Rumble and you were coming to Phoenix or something like that?
He was bartering you. He was bartering you away.
Yeah, was he selling me like a camel or something?
That's it.
Are you going to have an accountability corner team? Is it going to be a sponsored pro team? Was there any?
Well, you have to find out at some point.
Just guessing. But anything could happen. There could be new teams. There could be teams with new names. There could be people switching teams. There could be athletes that have been and gone and going to return to the sport. There could be fresh blood. There could be people who've been injured. Like Imi did one race, won it, had to go back to injury, sadly, after doing so well with the Spartan race in Australia, like at the beginning of the year. So like there's so much untapped potential. Like Josie, I think, has got loads of good races in her. Hopefully we'll see that develop, and then like Finley coming into his.
Yeah, no, I love the team competition. It really does change the sort of the whole way the races are, because just turning up at a race with your fellow teammates just makes it a whole little bit more exciting.
And of course, we have the UK OCR Awards. They are going to be sometime in March. I think Alan's just dotting I's and crossing the T's, but sometime in March is going to be the UK OCR Awards. The voting will be open over the Christmas period, as it always is. I don't know when this recording is going out, so it may have already finished, but voting is happening. So please do put your vote in. That every vote counts. And of course, Dan and Fedi, as winners of the UK OCR series, not only do they take away a prestigious trophy that they'll be presented with in March, you guys also won some prizes too. Is that correct? Now, I can't quite remember, but definitely season pass for the races next year. Some money for the first time. I don't know whether you've been paid, so I better not say anything about that. And a couple of other sponsored prizes. Do either of you have prizes in front of you, or can tell me what you've won?
Expect that's part of the awards night, but there is prize money.
There is prize money.
This was the first year with prize money for this series.
I think we're all counting the
Sponsored by
pennies,
the
Dan,
race
so
system.
maybe you'll just get a big jar of pennies or something in March to go with your prizes. So yes, no, I think it's fantastic that we're able to start moving forward. Of course, we're not ever going to be quite professional just yet, but a bit of prize money, tickets for next season and some other bits is always very useful to any athlete. So keep your eyes peeled for the UK OCR Awards and when that's going to be opening. Hopefully you teams will be taking tables of 10. I'll be around maybe commentating or doing something, or just sitting at the back, going to banter with everybody else. But that is in March. Let's just go back to the rest of 2025. Fedi, what's next for you? What are you doing on the off season, if you ever have an off season? But do you have any plans for 2025 yet?
Mainly, I think that my main goal is to try to see how much I can improve, as always, and then I'll go from there. I think I would really like to do and to eye up the international races as like Euro champs and world champ, because next year they seem to be pretty cool in great locations and with incredible competition. So it'd be really nice to be prepared for that. But other than that, I don't have massive plans just yet. I am trying to rebuild, and I'm being positive, and I'll hope that I'll be back in full shape, or in good shape for March when our first races.
Well, you got a new gym, so should be.
Oh yeah, I've got a new gym, and I also have a new amazing Christmas present that will be coming up. So yeah, looking forward to that.
We're looking forward to knowing what that is now, aren't we?
We're like, are you gonna just
It's
us hanging, or?
I'll give you a little clue. It's something that at the minute I can't do too much of.
A new foot.
Treadmill.
Dan, what about you? What's going on in the off season, and what? Well, we kind of talked very quickly about 2025, but tell us more about your plans for 2025.
Yeah, so starting off in the off season, so I've just finished my last main competitive race last weekend. That was the Telford 10K, which is insanely quick. Like, the course record got beaten, and to put it in perspective, the course record was 28:32, I think, off the top of my head. And it got beaten this year. It was 28:02 was the winning time.
What?
I think. Yeah.
Also, fair play. Your time is amazing. Side
Yeah.
note.
But what's even funnier is when you look at the results afterwards and you go, yeah, I've just PB'd, run the fastest 10K I've ever done in my life, and I was 131st
Oh my
in
god!
the race.
But
Insane.
could they do a rig?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I mean. But yeah, can they do a rig? Can they run and carry stuff? Can they crawl through miles of water and mud? Who knows?
If they
I
can.
reckon if they
Get 'em on the
ran up
bottom.
the weekend, it might have got you up a little bit further.
Becky's
That
like, if
ambition.
they can't, invite them all.
Yeah.
Bring them on.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the rest of the 25 season. So I'm doing a few cross-country races for Harrow Athletics. And then after that, it's slow build towards the OCR series being the main target. So I'm going to try and hit as many of those races as I can. They seem to fall on quite good dates for me at the minute.
A couple of them don't.
Well, maybe. We'll see. But like, I'm going to be trying to battle around traveling as well as the new job, because as part of the new job that I do now, it's quite restrictive as to when I can get away for training, which is a struggle. But it's one of these things you just deal with.
I might try and join you in a couple of them OCR series.
Yeah.
They are good
The
races.
more the merrier.
Well, there's some work behind the scenes, Dan, with Reese, who's the regional or the rep for the armed forces, helping going into making things move forwards to eventually have some more recognition. Maybe then you can do it part of your job.
Maybe, yeah. So, because currently it's what I do of jumping out of planes is quite lucrative. So I'm going to try and keep as much of that on the good side as I can, and then afterwards it's say like, oh yeah, I need to travel away for 2 days to do XYZ race. But other than that, it's sort of hitting the UKOCR series when I can, and then I'm missing out on the Euros this year. I won't be at the Euros, but I will be at the Worlds. So got a good excuse for the Euros this year. I managed to get tickets for Glastonbury, so go to Glastonbury.
That's a different mud pit altogether.
Exactly.
So, guys, that's the 2024 UKOCR series. Chris, any final words on the series as a whole, or what was the most exciting?
Well, I didn't take part in too many, but I enjoyed being on this podcast and talking about them in great depth. That was the best thing about the UKOCR series for me this year. Yeah.
Becky, how about you?
I enjoyed hearing about all the little battles, not necessarily in the races, but each woman that I spoke to knew how many points they were away from which person and what they needed to do, and people had their own personal goals and they were working hard to achieve them. And I think people were quite pleased with their efforts, or some when they didn't come their way, they had used it as motivation. So I think everyone kind of stuck at it and persevered and had like lots of small wins of their own. So it's really nice to be able to see that. And for people who were like just getting more familiar with it, I can imagine that they might get excited by it and maybe latch on to that kind of competition a little bit more, and hopefully it will just keep growing.
Yeah,
and of course,
I agree with absolutely both of you that there's been more stories. And Chris, you've been talking about if we have more stories, then more people will watch, more people will tune in, and it will grow the sport. And I think we're not only who's hot is about who is hot, who's the top, but we're always talking about all the other battles that are going on along that top 10. And for me, this year, more than any of the years that we've covered this, there just seems to be more and more battles going through the whole of the race. That has been the 2024 UKOCR series, but we will be back again for the 2025. They've already have some races already booked in for 2025. We start March 29th at back up in Kilmarnock, Tartan Warrior 8K. April 26th, Spawn Survivor 10K. May the 10th, British OCR 12K Championship. June the 8th, Spartan Beast in Scotland. A brand new venue up towards Edinburgh. That is going to be a wild card. July 26th, Tough Muddy Yorkshire 15K. Go get yourself some elevation with a few more races still to be announced. My thank you to Federica Di Caria, the female UK OCR series champion. You can see her on Instagram at Federica Di Caria. Also to Dan Titcombe, he has been our male UK OCR series champion. You can find him at Daniel Titcombe 95. As always, thank you to my two elite runners, racers, commentators, and it's always great to have a little bit of banter between the two doctors. We've got Chris Shipley at Obstacle Race Dude. Now you can see Becky just laughing there. Becky Neal at The Runner Bean UK. Thanks as always to British Obstacle Sports. You can find them on Instagram at British Obstacle Sports. And if you haven't already, why are you not following UKOCR across all of the channels at UKOCR? This has been the UKOCR 2024 recap series. We're going to have a little break. We'll be back sometime, probably in February, with our preview of the 2025 series in readiness for March the 29th, the first race at Tartan Warrior 8K. This has been UKOCR. This has been Who's Hot. This has been the 2024 series. And that's it from us. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. we done played a part. And when the going getting tough, I get to going hard. You bring your best and you know I'ma tear them apart. We ready survival, rival. I ain't got no time for anyone to wait for